Well, I would just like to welcome you to week two, and I just wanted to just begin, just kind of going over briefly what we looked at last week, and just kind of summarizing and wrapping things up as we move forward into week two. I just wanted to let you know how pleased I was with the level of discussion that we had last week, the interaction, the engagement, and a lot of the dialogue that was going back and forth between several of you was just really outstanding. And I was very encouraged by some of the discussions that were going on, some of the interactions, some of the questions you were posing to one another. And I just wanted to let you know how appreciative I was of that and the interactions that were going on this past week. So just continue to keep that up and allow those kinds of engagements to continue throughout the remainder of our time together. With that being said, I just wanted to kind of I made some observations as far as some of the things that were that I saw and I kind of noticed when I was looking and reading through the discussion threads, that I just wanted to make sure that we kind of catch at the very front end of our time together, so that we can kind of make some adjustments midstream, so that we can kind of even allow even further, even better our discussion in the weeks to come. So I just wanted to make sure that as we are, and I think that we did a really good job this week as far as making sure that we narrowed our focus, that we didn't get out on rabbit trails, and that we were very good about making sure that we stayed on track. But with that being said, I just wanted to make sure that we also make sure that as we make conclusions or draw inferences, that we make sure that we are always basing our conclusions on Scripture, or within the materials that we have been reading throughout the course, or outside references as well. Making sure that you do that, so that we aren't just kind of shooting off the cuff, that the answers and responses that we give are very thoroughly supported by Scripture or other reputable references and citations. So make sure that if you, and also when you do refer to those kinds of resources, that you make sure that you give credit to where credit is due, so that you make sure that you cite properly when you do so. And also, as it pertains to our discussion threads, that you make sure that I mean, for the most part, I think you guys did a fantastic job of doing this, but there were some that I did see where a student or even myself have posed a further probing question to you in your discussion thread, and some of them weren't responded to. And I just want to encourage you to do that because it does enhance the discussion, and it does create a really good interactive involvement with the topic at hand. So make sure that you're checking back every so often to make sure that if someone has posed a question to you in your discussion or in your post, that you make sure that you respond to them as well. And if you don't know something, make sure that you say that as well. I noticed that that was a really good response. I know that one of you guys had mentioned, hey, someone asked you a question, you said, well, hey, that's a great question, I don't know, let me get back to you on that. And that's perfectly acceptable, and that's awesome to see as well. And I just wanted to let you know that I will be looking and lurking kind of in the background regarding the discussion forums. But please, I just wanted to let you know that, especially as in a context such as this, where there's a lot of students, I will not be personally responding to every post, and please don't take offense to that. It's not that I don't care, or that I don't think that your discussion is worthy of me interacting with you. It's not that at all. It's just that I think that it's much better that I allow the discussion to kind of grow between each and every one of you, and I just wanted to not provide all the answers, or not provide all of my insights or in the discussion, but I want to allow it to grow because of your interactions. And if I may pose, probing questions here and there, I just wanted to let you know that as well. So I just wanted to also address something else that I noticed as a common theme that I saw within the discussion. It was this idea of one of the questions that was posed was how is it fair or just for God to judge us regarding sin and the inheritance of sin? And many of you nailed it, but some of you were kind of struggling a little bit with how God is just in doing that, and the rationale that you provided was, in essence, just basically saying that it's a matter of our own personal sin that God is judging us, and that He is perfectly fair in doing so because of the sins that we have personally committed. But we need to kind of go back further and looking at Scripture and what Scripture teaches us regarding our inheritance of sin, that we inherited our sin from Adam, and we're going to kind of really dig a little bit deeper into that in the weeks to come, especially in this coming week. We're looking at the imputation of sin and how God is just in judging us because of the inherited nature, the sin nature that we personally have inherited all the way back from Adam, and that his sin we participated in as well. And without giving you much more response, is what we're going to be looking at this coming week, I just wanted to kind of address that as well, looking at and pointing back to passages of Scripture such as Romans 3:23, which tells us that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, and that's in a nutshell teaches us that we have sinned, and that we have, and that's not, Paul is not just necessarily talking about the sins that we personally committed ourselves, but he's pointing back to that initial original sin that we inherited from Adam. So I just wanted to touch on that very briefly. And also, some of you were penalized slightly for some of the responses that you may have given in the discussion forum as well. And one thing I want to really strike home with is that as you're responding to other people's posts, it's not really acceptable to just say, well, I like your post or I agree with your post, and just kind of say, basically that's it, that you liked someone else's post because what we want in our discussion thread is to, as we respond to others' posts, we want to move that discussion forward. So state why you agreed with that particular post and why you did. So you're moving it forward, or asking even more questions about maybe why you disagreed with someone's post, and just always be thinking of ways in which we can kind of dig a little bit deeper and provide ways we can kind of move that forward a little bit more. So if you're wondering why, and I made comments to those of you who may have been docked a few points here or there, just making sure that we are in this together, that we're thinking theologically, that we're thinking rationally, that we're seeing how certain things tie in with Scripture or certain things don't tie in with Scripture, and as well. So making sure that we do that. So that's what we looked at this past week, and we're looking at this coming week. We're going to continue looking at sin, and we're going to looking at a biblical definition of what sin is, and the imputation that we have inherited from Adam as well, and the penalty of sin. And also we're going to be looking at atonement, how God provided a means by which to bridge the gap between a holy, just, righteous God and sinful mankind. So looking forward to another exciting week in the discussion forum, and another exciting topic of discussion as we look at, continue looking at hamartiology and how the origin of sin, and how we have inherited the sin nature, and how God in His holy, just mercy provided a means by which to atone for our sin.